All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Rocky Top Insider Postgame Show. This is Ryan Shumpert. I'm Rick Butler, standing here on the field. A little bit of a different game, same story. Tennessee gets a big win, although there was some familiarities throughout. Tennessee defeats number 7. Tennessee defeats Kentucky by a score of 28-18. Ryan, what do you think about this game? What's kind of going through your head right now? Some 30, 40 minutes after it ended.
Yeah, that it once again felt like Tennessee was close to playing a really good game. That a couple of plays here or there, they could have blown Kentucky out. I think more like I expected, but they weren't able to do that. They keep on having a lot of self-inflicted mistakes, and Tennessee did score in the first half.
Yes,
They got 7, but they were down 10-7 against a bad Kentucky team, and doing it tonight with I think they had like 254 yards of offense in the first half, and this have 7 points is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I think they had, outside of their last drive, they got the ball with 30 seconds left, no timeouts. Outside of that, they had 5 drives in the first half. 4 of those 5 drives at least got to the Kentucky 22-yard line. On those 4 drives, they got just 7 points. On the one drive that didn't, they got the ball on the Kentucky side of the field, and Chris Brazzell dropped a long touchdown pass. Yeah, right here. So it felt like Tennessee had a lot there, like they did against Alabama, but continued to kind of not quite hit those plays.
Yeah, and missed opportunities, certainly, kind of rearing its head. Max Gilbert 0 for 3 on the night.
And I will say that about the offense. So Max Gilbert was bad tonight. He probably felt different about the game. He hadn't missed a kick under 50 yards all season. He misses 3 of them tonight. He hits those 3 kicks. You're still talking about some of those self-inflicted mistakes and not capitalizing fully, but it doesn't feel quite as drastic.
Right, it's not the same story as Tennessee shut out in the first quarter again.
Yeah.
They did pick up a touchdown by Peyton Lewis.
Yeah.
Deshaun Bishop goes out, a little bit banged up. Peyton Lewis, the freshman running back, steps in. He gets his first career touchdown there in the second quarter. But it was a big night for Dylan Sampson once again. Dylan Sampson, he not only ties Tennessee's all-time single-season touchdown record, but then with his second touchdown, which was quite the scrum over here on the opposite side of the field.
Scrum.
Quite the rugby scrum. Even the quarterback was trying to push him in. Dylan Sampson said he was surprised the whistle wasn't blown.
Yeah.
I was surprised the whistle wasn't blown. But he now becomes Tennessee's all-time single-season touchdown leader. And there's still a couple more games to go for him.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think at his career now, he's at 32. I think 32. 37, Gene McEver, who held the record for single season, holds that one. So he's at 37. He's 5 off. He's 3rd all-time right now, actually tied with Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs is tied for 3rd in Tennessee career rushing touchdowns. So the way he's going, it's hard to think he won't get that. And another really good night for Dylan Sampson, which is no surprise. It did feel like they kind of used him a little bit less, and then you look up, and he still had like 25 carries again.
Yeah, 27.
So, 27, yeah, and he was good at the end of the game as Tennessee kind of put it on ice.
Which is also remarkable considering Nico Iamaleava had 38 attempts, and that felt like a lot for him as well.
They ran a lot of plays tonight.
They were running a lot of plays. That's absolutely true. Now, you told me after the game, or I heard you say it at some point, that add in a couple of those passes that Tennessee missed down the field, add in that one to Brazil that you were just talking about, and then the one to Chaz Nimrod. That was a drop across the middle of the field. That would have sent the numbers scoring, but Nico Iamaleava finishes the day 28-38, 292 yards, 1 touchdown, a long of 31 yards on the day. What did you think of his performance? I thought that, man, he was cool, calm, and collected in the pocket most of the time, and boy, he hit some big throws across the field.
I thought it was the best game of at least of any consequence in his college career. And yeah, I mean, you hit those throws. I think that was a 48-yarder to one Brazzell dropped. I think it would have been like a 68-yarder to one to Nimrod, which is just a phenomenal play, working across his progression, put it between the safety. And I mean, there was no one between Nimrod and the end zone, and he drops it. You hit those two, that's what, 120 yards. He has 410 passing yards. He's 30 of 38 with 3 touchdowns. I thought he was really good, and even despite that, and even more than the numbers, Tennessee, the biggest drive of the game when they put it away, 13 plays, 93 yards. The 3rd and 7 throw, he had a Dante Thornton on the run, was not open at all, threw it kind of on his outside hip. It was a good catch, but really good coverage into a tight spot. That was just a phenomenal throw. I thought he just had a lot of the wild throws tonight. A lot of wild throws without any of the mistakes that he's had at a couple moments this season.
Absolutely. I can't necessarily remember a time where he put the ball in too much danger, but you're right. You talk about that last play. That was something that you and I were talking about as the game was wrapping up. Just that's how you put out a game. And obviously there were still a couple more opportunities. I believe that was at the 5-minute mark, man. But that is one of the plays.
Yeah, 2-score game with 5 minutes left. It was over at that
That's
point.
A possession that does it. But you talk about some of the wild throws he made. We know that Nico Iamaleava, he thrives to me on some of those off-balance throws. Now, they don't always get there, but to me, that is an advantageous part of his game. And again, you saw some of those just ridiculous throws across the field, some of them from the far hash to the other sideline. Just a really impressive night, I thought, for the Tennessee signal caller. Miles Kitselman, 97 yards. Tight ends, I thought, had a pretty good day. Tennessee really seemed like they wanted to get the tight ends involved in the game plan. That was something that Kitselman said after the game as well. And funny enough, in case you haven't gone back and listened to the post-game press conference, that touchdown play to Kitselman, which was actually right here next to where we're standing, it looked like that was a pretty broken play. Kitselman was not the intended receiver on that play.
No.
It was actually tight end Holden Stays who was, but Nico and Miles, they were able to kind of connect. He said lock eyes in the press conference, and he was able to hit him in the back of the end zone. Not a bad night at all from Tennessee's tight end room.
No, and I mean, a big bounce back game for Miles Kitselman. I was trying to think of this. I think I might have had him stock down after the Alabama game. It felt like he was trending down a little bit, and he did not play well in that game at all. But he had a really good night. A couple big plays in the pass game, a couple good runs after catch. So a good night for Kitselman for sure. And
you know what? He made up for the block. The missed block against Alabama.
Yeah, he had a really good block.
And I still don't know what happened there. I think he might have just thought the play was dead, but that was clearly a mistake against Alabama, one that a competitor like him probably wanted back. First quarter, I believe one of the first two drives, they're on another similar type of play where he's going
pass to Dylan Sampson.
He's blocking downfield, and he just mowed over a Kentucky defender. It seemed like he was letting out maybe a little bit of aggression there with that one.
Yeah, no, you're right. Even though it was a pass play, technically, it did feel very similar. I think it was at a similar spot of the field as well.
Yeah. Let's talk about the defense for a minute.
Yeah.
Kentucky gets some things going on the first couple drives. I don't have the stats in front of me. I believe it was a six-play drive, something like that. And then Tennessee's defense really locks in. I believe 4 out of Kentucky's next 5 drives leading up to halftime were all 3 and outs. I thought Tennessee's defense did a really good job of really bottling up. And yes, some things got a little bit loose at the end. The backup quarterback came in, which is a whole nother conversation itself. Maybe we'll save it for the RTI Press Pass podcast. But once again, Tennessee goes up against a backup quarterback. What did you think of the way the defense played?
I thought it was a very uncharacteristic start. I think they came out a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Not stagnant, but just weren't very good to start it off, as I put this very poetically.
I'm trying to think of the word, too. It's late.
The first play of the game, 50-yard run for Kentucky, is the biggest play Tennessee's given up all season. And to go down, Tennessee gets to stand, 4th down stop at the 5-yard line. And then the next drive, Kentucky again goes right down the field. I think that one was a 6-play, 75-yard, 73-yard touchdown drive. A couple big passes and busted coverage. From there, they were really good. The field goal drive at the end of the first half, another scoring drive, I guess, after Tennessee had gone up by 2 possessions for the first time in the second half. And there was a big 3rd and long completion that Tennessee didn't get home. That play wasn't great, but I thought the touchdown was more just a really good throw and catch than anything. So they were like their normal self after the start. Which was uncharacteristic. But I think the big thing for him tonight was turnovers. 3 turnovers forced.
Yeah.
All 3 of them gave Tennessee the ball in plus field position. The first one was 2 plays before Dylan Sampson fumbled, so they didn't capitalize on that one. But the Josh Joseph strip sack on the Kentucky's first drive in the second half, after Tennessee had just missed another short field goal, set up a touchdown for Tennessee to take its first lead of the game. And then the Will Brooks interception and return down to the 10-yard line set up the Kitselman touchdown you were talking about a little bit earlier. So those turnovers to me felt like the big thing. I didn't think it was Tennessee's best game in a season defensively, but at the end of the day, they were still really solid.
Your 4 leaders in tackles on the day against Kentucky: Arian Carter with 10, Jalen Smith with 9, Ricky Gibson the third with 6, and then Boot Carter with 4 himself. Anything stand out to you about the defense? We mentioned some of the interception or some of the turnovers. Will Brooks comes up with a big interception. Almost took it back for the pick 6. He said in the press conference, he said he was a little bit gassed, and it might have looked that way. That was a long run he made. But just the story of Will Brooks continues to unfold here in this 2024 season, and I don't think it's going to be a story that Tennessee fans forget for a while. But he makes a big play. Anything else stand out to you about this defense?
No, again, I think the turnovers were the big thing. I felt like Tennessee gave up a little bit more on the ground tonight than they typically have, but Kentucky just is going to struggle to pass the ball with any sort of consistency. And I thought James Pierce was really, really good again tonight. And Josh Josephs, who, for as good as he's been this year, hadn't had a sack. That strip sack that we previously talked about was one of the biggest plays of the game.
Yeah, and then once again, talking about the defense just from a kind of a 30,000-foot perspective, it's another game in which Tennessee holds their opposing offense under 20 points. I can't remember I can't remember the stat or the exact comparisons, but there's a comparison out there that's saying, hey, there's not a lot of teams who have done this to this point in the season, held every one of their opponents under 20 points. Tennessee is now in that list and in that category, and there's a lot of former national champions from the SEC in that group. So no direct comparisons, but certainly a very impressive run for Tennessee's defense. And you go back to, I believe, the first drive of the game. Kentucky gets all the way down to about the 5-yard line. Tennessee's defense once again comes up big, makes that big stand, bends but doesn't break on that first drive. But I again, there's still a little bit more to settle in. But you never know what could happen if Kentucky does punch in points right there. Tennessee's defense was able to hold them back.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it in hindsight, you probably say you kick the field goal there, you scored the next drive. It's Tennessee's down 10-0, and probably changes the flow of the game at least a little bit.
All right. Anything? I think we've hit offense, we've hit defense, we hit special teams even for the first time in a while. Anything else you want to get to today?
No, I think
for the press pass.
No, I think that's it. I mean, the one thing is you've let the people down. I think last game, the Alabama game, you said you wouldn't have to hold the mic anymore, and you're still holding the mic.
Oh, it's a supply chain issue. It's not a supply chain issue.
No,
you know what it is?
It's a supply chain issue.
You know what it is?
What is it?
It's a crossover season issue. There's not enough time in the day. There's
true.
Just so much going on. You got baseball, you got basketball, you got football.
Yep.
I will say, though, I kind of like holding the mic. I almost feel, I don't know, it's a little old school announcer like. I kind of like it, I don't know.
Yeah, Bob Costas.
Yeah, a little
retiring.
Bob Costas. A little, a little Mean Gene, if you will, even thrown in there for whoever gets that reference. All right, let's go ahead and pack this up, Ryan. You and I are still going to go up to the press box like normal. We're going to go record a longer episode of the RTI Press Pass. In case you want to find more of our in-depth thoughts on the game, head over to wherever you find your podcast and go ahead and find the RTI Press Pass. Otherwise, number 7, Tennessee gets their seventh win of the season, moved to 7-1 on the year as they host Mississippi State right here in Neyland Stadium next week. They get the win over Kentucky 28-18. It's Ryan Shumpert. I'm Rick Butler. Thank you for listening to the RTI Postgame Show. We'll see you back later.